So I was able to install the bearings okay. I wish I would have had the correct size driver tool. Unfortunately I didn't, and I had to improvise using a flipped upside down old race bearing to drive it down. And I don't recommend doing that unless you know for sure that the old race bearing won't get stuck in there, because unless there's a gap between the new race bearing and the old race bearing, you won't be able, if it gets stuck, you might have a hard time getting it out. Mine got a little bit stuck, but I was able to get it out. So I wanted to show you these two ports, these two cutaway ports in here. There's one here and there's one on the other side, and that's for driving out the old race bearing. Now I used a brass punch because it was convenient at the time, but I usually use this for carburetor rebuilding, and it works really well for reseating the seat inside of a carburetor that a BB sized ball bearing sits on, that blocks the flow of air or fuel. Because what happens is sometimes the ball bearing seat in the carburetor gets corroded with corrosion, and it leaks when the ball bearing is supposed to seal that passage. So when you use a brass flat punch to tap down the ball bearing in the seat, it will resurface the ball bearing seat in that ported area of the carburetor where the ball bearing can seal the port again. And that's what I use this for. To give you an example, let's pretend that we're looking inside of the carburetor. Pretend that this hub is the inside of the carburetor, and this is the ported hole that the little BB sized ball bearing sits on. And you need to resurface this so the ball bearing will seal the hole again. So after you've cleaned up the carburetor, you pretend this is a ball bearing. This is actually a cannonball, a real one. So let's pretend that you've cleaned up the carburetor and you put the ball bearing, the new one from the carburetor rebuild kit, back down in the port hole, and the little BB sized ball bearing sitting on the seat of the ported hole. And then you would take your punch and give it, like, I don't know, 2-3 light hits, taps with the hammer, and that would reseat the seat of the ported hole inside the carburetor. And that's what these brass soft malleable punches work good for.